Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So, Cryptic Studios have gone and released the sigil for the metallic ancestry Dragonborn back on the Zen Store. So we can now go and purchase it for Zen again. Now of course we could always go and purchase it off other players on the auction house, but now we can purchase it for definitely a cheaper price on the Zen market. That is if you use the Astral Diamond exchange or you just have the free Zen lying around. Now if you go and look on the auction house, you can go and buy that actual sigil for just over 1.7 million Astral Diamonds. All things considered, this isn't such a bad price, especially with the way the Astral Diamonds to Zen exchange is taking over 100 days now. So would I go and buy this metallic ancestry Dragonborn Race? Is it actually worth its Zen value? Well, let's go and find out. I'm going to go over this race and go in order of whether it's good for a DPS, a healer, or a tank. And is it the best for all three, or just one in particular? Let's find out. So here we are in the racial selection screen. And first things first, the metallic ancestry Dragonborn will give you these racial abilities, giving you a buff of 3% to your incoming healing and maximum hit points. Again, with giving you the ability scores to 2 of any stats, so you can make that fit in with pretty much any build. And then the Dragonborn Fury giving you that 3% crit and power, much like the ordinary Dragonborn does. The only advantage over the ordinary Dragonborn is that the metallic ancestry Dragonborn has 3% more maximum hit points. Now, would I run this race as a DPS character? Yes, it's pretty decent for a DPS character, giving you that 3% crit strike and power. And in endgame, where you need a lot of survivability to make sure you don't die to those pesky mobs which deal heavy damage, or when you're in, let's say, a trial and you have lots of attacks which are just unavoidable and you need to be able to tank them and survive, that is when this hit points comes into play. No other times really. You'll get scaled down and you'll be in content and it won't really matter. There's not really any other mechanics which are unavoidable that deal specific amount of damage, and thus you won't need 3% more HP to be able to survive. Whereas in Zariel or Tower of the Mad Mage, you very well might actually need it. And thus, the metallic ancestry Dragonborn is definitely one of the best races out there to be using as a DPS character. But again, I will say this, the difference is very minimal. You do, on your Dragonborn Fury, gain a total of 6% to your offense statistics, and no other race other than the ordinary Dragonborn actually gives a total of 6% to offense stats. We can look at the Ajmer here. He's only giving 2% to power. That's it. Then we look at pretty much all the other races. The human is giving a total of 5% to offense. Same with the half-orc, same with the Gith, the wood elf, and the sun elf, just giving the action points. But that aside, those other races only give a total of 5% offense, making the metallic ancestry Dragonborn that bit better as it has 1% more. Now 1% is only 1%. It's very minimal, and it's going to be even less than a 1% increase in your damage because of the way the crit and the power work when you stack them up in combo with all the other statistics. So in conclusion, no, the metallic ancestry Dragonborn is not vitally important for a DPS. It's good mainly just due to its survivability buff of 3% more hit points than any other race would gain. But the human is also a pretty good buffer in terms of giving more defense stats, giving that extra 5% to your defense statistics. And with it having the 5% buff to the offense statistics as well, it makes it a pretty good contender versus this metallic ancestry Dragonborn in terms of offense and defensive. It's just the metallic ancestry Dragonborn will give that 1% more to the offense stats. So now we move on to a healer. Is this any good? Well, again, yes it is, because you need both critical strike and power on a healer, and this race will help cap those stats out, along with giving you another buff to survivability through those maximum hit points and helping you heal yourself a little bit easier. So again, it's the same as the DPS. It's not overly important. For me, I prefer to run with the Aasimar as a healer, but this race again is very unobtainable to most of you newer players who weren't there around when the Redeemed Citadel campaign started. The Aasimar will give you a buff to your power, outgoing healing, increasing your incoming healing, your defense and your max hit points, along with giving a buff to all party members of 2% more maximum hit points, meaning you'll give them that extra survivability. So it's a nice buffer race. Other than that, you can always look at the other races which give you a buff to your stats that you need as a healer. For example, we have the Wood Elf here giving that +5 to critical strike. We have the Half Orc giving the +5% to the critical severity. And then of course you have other utilities ones like the Sun Elf giving you more action points gain. That's always good for a healer. More dailies you can cast, that's pretty good. And other than that, there's always the Human, which is a pretty neat race, giving that offense and defense stats. But of course you'll only gain 3% there to your healing statistics, the power, critical strike and critical severity. And the +3 to ability scores, you can always throw that into wisdom to give you more outgoing healing. Other than that, you can go and run pretty much any other race. In my opinion, a race isn't particularly going to matter in the end of the day unless you're running high-end endgame where every stat counts. Now we move on to tanks. How does this sum up for a tank? Well, it mainly just gives you that 3% to incoming healing and that 3% to your maximum hit points. No other race gives you that huge increase to your hit points. The other contender is the Aasimar giving you that 2% to hit points, and then you have other races that give defense buffs. Like you have the Dwarf giving you 5% defense, you have the Halfling giving you 5% deflect, and then of course there's always the Human. You can always fall back on the Human as being pretty much one of the most reliable races to give you decent statistics all round. Giving that 5% defense stats for a tank is pretty neat. Giving that defense, the awareness, the critical avoidance, the deflect and the deflect severity. And the metallic ancestry Dragonborn just giving you more hit points is great because hit points are unlimited. You can have as many hit points as you possibly want or can obtain, and thus you can never have enough of it. Whereas if you cap out defense with, let's say, out the Dwarf, then what's the point in having the Dwarf race then? But the Dwarf race is still nice, and you can always put defense stats somewhere else once you have that capped out. But that's it for the Pacific roles and whether I would run them on them or not. All round, yes, the Metallic Ancestry Dragonborn is very good for all roles, and it can fit all of them, indeed, giving you a buff to your defense stats, along with giving a buff to your offense stats. So in terms of whether this Metallic Ancestry Dragonborn is worth the price, well, in my opinion, if you just want to spend that Zen and you have it free, and you genuinely like the look of running as a Dragonborn, then go for it. Why not? It's a decent race and it's going to fit all of those roles, whether you're a DPS, a tank or a healer. It's all round pretty decent. But personally, I wouldn't go out of my way spending much on a race when you have other things to spend Zen and Astral Diamonds on. It's not going to make a huge big deal. I'm currently running endgame content as my Aasimar, and before that I was always running endgame content as a human. In the end of the day, it's really not going to make a huge difference. We're just talking about 1 or 2 percentages here. So in conclusion, it's entirely up to you. I've gone through the benefits of why you would run the race. Me personally, no, I don't feel it's worth it to purchase this Metallic Ancestry Dragonborn race, as I'm never going to use it. I like the look of my character as it is, and I have no intention of turning into a Dragonborn. So that is that. Hopefully I presented this well, and if I did, consider leaving the video a like. And if you're new around here, consider subscribing. I will see you guys around. Goodbye for now.